Om Dhanvantaraya Namaha. Good morning all. Myself, Dr. Chaya Hulle, Assistant Professor, Department of Rog Nidana, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda. I welcome you all on behalf of Sri Bahubali Vidyapeethas, JV Mandalas, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda, District Bagalkot, who has clubbed all of us for second day of 6th National Webinar on Ayurvata Chintana 2020 from the Department of Roga Nidana Evam Vikruti Vignana. Prayer is the most powerful tool mankind has to reach the God. It gives us strength and confidence. So now I call upon our students for invocation.
ॐ नमामि धन्वन्तरि आदिदेवो सुरासुरवन्दिते पादपद्मं लोके दराय स्वयं मृत्युविनाशनं धातारमीशं विविध औषधीनां धन्वन्तरि रमानाथं सर्वरोगनिवारकम् आयुर्वेदप्रवक्तारम् वन्दे पीयूषदायकम् सर्वे जनः सुखिनो भवन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामय सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति.
Thank you for prayer song. Now I request Dr. Kulun ma'am for welcome speech. Hello, good morning to all. Myself, Dr. K. Kulu, Assistant Professor, Department of Dravyaguna, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Kerala. Sri Bahubali Vidyapeethas, JV Mandalas, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College welcomes you all for second day of 6th National Webinar on Ayurvata Chintana 2020 from Department of Roga Nidana Evam Vikruti Vignana, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Kerala. It gives me great pleasure to give a warm welcome to our chief patrons of this webinar, Sri D.C. Patil sir, Chairman, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda. Welcome you, sir. Dr. J.B. Algur sir, Secretary, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda. Welcome you, sir. And Sri Nilesh J. Desai sir, Treasurer, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda. Welcome you, sir. I cordially welcome our beloved Principal sir, Professor and HOD Department of Panchakarma and President of this webinar, Dr. L.M. Biradar sir, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda. Welcome you, sir. Also, I heartily welcome Organizing Secretary Dr. Chetna ma'am, Associate Professor and HOD Department of Roga Nidana, Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda. Welcome you, ma'am. On this August webinar, with immense pleasure, I would like to welcome our guest speakers, Dr. Shalini Rai Madam, Assistant Professor, Department of Roga Nidana, All India Institute of Ayurveda, New Delhi. Welcome you, ma'am. And Dr. Vina G. Rao, ma'am, Department of PG Studies in Panchakarma, JHS Ayurvedic Medical College, Mysore. Welcome you, ma'am. And the speaker, Dr. Madhav Diggavi, sir, Professor and HOD, Department of PG Studies in Kaya Chikitsa, Taranath Government Ayurvedic Medical College, Ballari. Welcome you, sir. A genial welcome our teaching, non-teaching and hospital staff and students of Gramina Ayurvedic Medical College, Tedda. Welcome you all. I extend a gracious and inclusive welcome to all the faculty members, practitioners, UG students, PG scholars of different colleges and the audience from different parts of the country. Welcome one and all. Thank you, ma'am, for welcome speech. Greenery gives
Pleasure to eyes. Now I request today's president of this webinar, Dr. L.M. Biradar sir, Professor and HOD, Department of Panchakarma, for watering plant. Thank you, sir. Let us begin first session on the topic revisiting Vata and its salient aspects in perspective of health and disease by Dr. Shalini Rai ma'am. Before that, I request Dr. Kulur ma'am to introduce ma'am to all.
On this pleasant occasion, I would like to introduce Dr. Shalini Rai ma'am. Dr. Shalini Rai madam, who is currently working as Assistant Professor in Department of Roganidana, Evam Vikriti Vignana, All India Institute of Ayurveda, Sarita Vihara, Delhi. Ma'am has total more than 10 years of teaching experience and has guided 13 students in their dissertation and published 15 articles in national and international journals. And Madam published one book on anemia and Ayurveda, Pandu by Chaukamba Sanskrit, Prakashana, Delhi. And Madam has presented many oral and 32 poster presentation in national and international conferences and workshops. Madam reviewed 3 journals and awarded with Ayurveda Bhushan in 2019, Best Paper Award in 2017, Himalaya Ayur Visharada Award in 2004, and numerous awards in institutional and faculty level for debate and essay. With this brief introduction, I request Dr. Shalini Rai Madam to start with the session. What do you, ma'am?
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Audible.
Okay. Respected Principal, sir, Professor Ellen Bilavar, sir, distinguished dignitaries, senior faculty members, colleagues from all of the institute and other places who have joined us, and dear students. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for providing me with this opportunity of sharing my views and opinions, and Grameen Ayurvedic Medical College, Terdal, Kerala, for taking this initiative of sharing our views, opinions, and knowledge so that we may come to some enrich our knowledge and wisdom. So I would like to thank them, and then I would like to begin with my presentation. And this presentation is more intended for the scholars, as all the senior faculty are already knowing all of the concepts which I'll be presenting here. So I would request the scholars to participate and interact also in this session. So beginning with my topic, it is rediscovering Vata and its clinical understanding in health and disease. So the objectives of this presentation will be: what is Vata, where does it reside, what are the causes of its aggravation, how do we understand Vata, what are its functions, and how do we understand them, and what is the interrelationship between Pakwashaya and Vata Dosha. Since Vata is a very big topic and it is practically impossible to cover each and everything, so I have taken some of the important aspects which I'll be sharing and talking about in this presentation. So beginning with the introduction. So what is Vata? As we all know that we are the students of an Ayurveda fraternity, we know what is Vata. It is one of the Sharirik doshas, which it is one of the Sharirik doshas, which is the main biological functional entity. It is the controller, initiator, and regulator and coordinator of all the functions of the human body. It also, the human body, which is comprised of dosh, dhatu, upadhatu, mal, srotas, agni, and sattva, and atma. So that human body, the main initiator, controller, and regulator is the vata dosh. So we come to the nirukti of Vat, which comes as Tatra Va Gati Gandhanyo. So here we see that there are two words, Gati and Gandhan. Gati represents actions and Gandhan represents the perceptions. So these two words, Gati and Gandhan, in short, are including all the activities of our human body. That is the sensory perception, which is occurring at any level in all the system, and the actions which are occurring consequently. So the nirukti of Vata dosh as Tatra Va Gati Gandhanyo, meaning actions or movement, and the perception. Gandh is here representing a perception. So these two words are in a very small word meaning and referring to the whole function of Vata dosh. Now the composition of this Vata. Vata, as we all know that everything in this universe is Panch Mahabhautik. Similarly, this Vata dosh is also Panch Mahabhautik, but it is comprised majorly of two elements, that is Vayu and Akash Mahabhut. Along with the Sharirik doshas, the Mansik dosh are also playing an important role in regulating and governing our bodily functions. So, Akash Mahabhut has the predominance of Sattva and Vayu Mahabhut has the predominance of Raj. So, combining these two Mahabhuts, the Vata dosh has predominance of Sattva and Raj, but Vata has been called as Rajo Gud Bahul. So, how do we see and appreciate this Vata? We all are sitting in our rooms at different places, and we all are doing our own work. At presently, we are participating in this seminar. So, are we able to perceive that there is Vata around us? It's difficult because we are not seeing any activity, and unless and until our Shastra told us that Vat is there around us, or unless and until the scientists told us that there is Vat around us, we were not able to perceive the Vat. Since it is Amurt, we are not able to visualize it. It's imperial, incorporeal. So because of this Amurt nature of Vat, we are not able to visualize it. Only what we can do is we can feel it. Feeling can be done only when we see, when we perceive it through any of our sense organs. So we can perceive Vat when wind is in the universe. Lok Purush Samya Yatra Pinde Tat Brahmande, following that principal theory. When we see the leaves moving or the clothes which are hanged, when they move, we then come to know, or we when hear the sound of wind, we come to know that their wind is blowing. But Vat is the wind is Vat in movement. Otherwise, also silently, also when no wind is moving, Vat is there all around us. So Vat is Amurt, and since it is Amurt or incorporeal, it doesn't have a form. We are able to perceive it only through our sense organs and its functions. So that is why it has been stated as avyakto vyakta karma. That is itself, it is avyakt, but how we will perceive it? By the functions it will perform. Then other terminologies which has been used for describing the Vata dosh are asanghatvantam, anavastitam, anasadhya. Asanghatvantam means it doesn't join like the kapha and the pitta dosh and the dhatu. The Vata dosh, it doesn't join or stick to anything. And it is anavasthit, meaning it is mobile, it is continuously moving, and anasadhya. Anasadhya means it is not easily approachable. As I have already discussed, that it is Rajogud Bhuyisht, and one of the other properties which has been explained for Vata is Yogvahi. So Vata has been given a great importance in our Ayurvedic text, and that is why separate chapters have been described for its uh, mm, in Sutrasthan for describing its various basic principal components, further in Nidan and Chikitsa. Chikitsa Sthan for a Vat Vyadhi, and then the Nanatmaj roga are also described. So Vat is a very important component. That is why a lot of weightage has been given in a classical text while describing this Vat. So how do we come to know this? When we appreciate this fact, the importance of Vat, when we see the Paryay which is given to this uh, dosh. So there, when in Vatkala Kali Adhyay, when the Paryay of Vat are given, there it has been described as Sahi Bhagwan, Prabhavascha Avyayascha. Prabhav means from which everything originates, and Avyavascha means which doesn't spend or which doesn't get eliminated. It is self-perpetuating. Bhutanam Bhav Abhavakara. It is the substance which brings the substance into existence and also finishes it off or ends it. Sukh Asukhiyo Vidhata. It determines the health or happiness and the grieveness of the individual. It determines the death, Mrityu, Yamah Niyanta. Yam again shows the Mrityu. Prajapati. Prajapati, the term Prajapati is used for the one who does the palan of his praja. So similarly, Vat dosh in its Prakrit Avastha is doing the palan of all the dhatus and the other dosh, Upadhatu and Mal. Hence it has been called as the Prajapati. Aditi, Vishwakarma, Vishwarup, Sarvagah, Sarvatantranam Vidhata. Here, Vishwarup, Sarvag, Vishwakarma again are showing its importance as regard to the whole, the governing of all the body functions by Vat. Sarvatantranam Vidhata. Now this word has some significance which I would like to discuss. Sarvatantranam Vidhata means here Tantra is pertaining to actions, karma. For example, in Chakrapani Tika, he has explained that Tantra is also referring to karma. For example, Vasti Tantranam in Siddhistan. So, Sarva Tantranam Vidhata refers to the Vat being the initiator, coordinator and regulator of all the functions of the body. Bhavanam Aduh Vibhu Vishnu Kranta Lokanam Vayurer Bhagwan iti. Now here Vat has been at the same time called as Anu and Vibhu. Vibhu refers to Vyapak and Aru refers to small or subtle. So the same Vat, it is so sukshma, so subtle that it can pervade the minutest channels of the body, and at the same time it is so gross that it is present all at once in the whole body. That is why we are able to perceive the sparshan indri, which is vyapak in the whole body, and that can be perceived everywhere. So Vat, unlike Man, is not Adu and Ek. It is though Anu, but it is Vibhu. So it is Vyapak in the whole body. So again, this we all very know, which we have read many times since our BMS first year, that all the three doshas, they are important functional components, physiological components for the functioning of the body. But amongst these three doshas, Vata is again having a upper hand because these two doshas, the Pitta and Kapha, they are also depending upon the Vata for initiation, coordination and regulation of their functions. Without Vata dosh, they will not be able to perform their own respective functions. That is why this classical verse, Pittam Pangu, Kafam Pangu, Pangavo Maldhatva, Vayuna Yatra Niyante, Tatra Varshanti Megha. Then again in Chikitsa Sthan, for signifying the importance of Vata, Vayu has been described as Vayur Ayur Balam Vayur Vayur Dharta Sharirina. Vayur Vishwam Idam Sarvam Prabhu Vayushya Kirtita. Like in Charak Sutra Adhyaya 12, again Vayu has been called as Prabhu, or the creator and the destroyer and the controller. That terminology has been given to Vayu, and here Vayu has been called as Ayu. But we have already read that what is Ayu? Sharir Indriya Sattva Sanyogodhari Jivita, and that is called as the Ayu. So being the initiator, controller and regulator of this body and its life, all the activities which are occurring in the whole lifespan, Vayu has been given the synonym of Ayu, Bal, and the Dharan of this, Dharan Karta of this Ayu. Then again it has been stated, अव्याहत गतिर यस्य स्थानस्थः प्रकृतौ स्थितः व्यायुः स्यात् सो अधिकं जीवेत वीत रोगः समाशतः. So this is important because we know and we are very much clear that this Vayu has to be in its Prakrit Avastha for the health to occur. So the Shastra, while describing its importance, has told that avyahat gatiryasya. Avyahat means unobstructed gati, means unobstructed movement. But here we have to become very clear that unobstructed movement may also occur in the stages of Sanchay, Prakop, Prasar. So then it will not lead to healthy status. So avyahat gati means here is referring to the gati or the movement of Vat which is occurring in its own channels, not in any other channel as occurs in Ashyapkarsh also, or as may occur in Vimarg Gaman also. So avyahat gatir yasya sthanasthah prakrito sthita. This whole line has to be taken collectively, means Vat situated in its own place, in its own srotas, when it is circulating in an unobstructed way. Then only it will be able to perform its functions in an uninterrupted way and it will lead to healthy life of about 100 years, which is not having any diseases. So with these descriptions, I can see there are some hands raised. So ma'am, will we like to discuss it in between or maybe discuss it after the session? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. After the session, we will discuss questions, ma'am.
Okay. So then here we come to the appreciation that Vata dosh is a biological functional entity which is the main component and also governs the other two biological entities, that is Pitta and Kapha, and all three of them are making the functional attributes of our body and helping our body to grow and survive. Its hand. So now we come to another, this is very obvious. I mean, the scholars will be wondering, why have I put this topic here? Where does it reside? So we all know that Vata is residing in the whole body, just as we have discussed here that though it is Anu, it is Vibhu, Vyapak in the whole Sharir. So Sarva Sharir is the place where the body, where the Vata is residing. Means each and every cell, tissue, organ, organelle of the body, everywhere Vata is present. Then more specifically, our Acharya have the habit of first generalizing and then giving a specific particular component so that the things, they become easy, because once it is generalized, we will not be able to apply some principle or concept. So for the application of some principles and concept which attribute to its treatment, they have given specific locations in the body. So the specific locations in the body are Vastihi, Purishadhanam, Katihi, Sakthini, Padavastini, Pakwashayascha Vatasthanani, Tatrapi Pakwashayo Visheshena Vatasthanam. So the lower part of the body, that is almost up below the umbilical level, that have been described as the parts of the body which are responsible as the main location or the site of Vata. Then Ashtang Hriday has added further the ears as Shrotra and Sparshan Twacha. These are also the sites where the Vata is residing. And we have seen, and we have, as we have gone through all the descriptions in the BMS first year, second year, final year, and after we become teachers, that the functions of Vata correlate much to the functions of the nervous system. But that nervous system and as a part is not mentioned anywhere in Ayurveda. So that we will come to discuss later. So how do we understand this Vata? So that we have, as we have discussed earlier, that since Vart is Amurt, Anavasthit, Anasadhya, so how do we understand it? If we are not able to see anything, then we feel it. Anuman, we make an anuman for it, and that anuman is based on Purva Gyan, Purva Pratyaksh and Aptopadesh. So that the understanding of Vat is also based on similar experience, that is its functions. And it's when we see its properties within the body. So the properties of Vat are Rukshah Shito Lagu Sushmaschal Atvishadah Khara. So the properties of Vat have been described in different contexts. There are some differences also. Somewhere Sukshma has been described and somewhere Sukshma has been replaced with Darun. So these are degrees. The Khar and the further degree is Darun. Darun means more Khar and more dryness in the body. So the properties of Vat, that is, Vat itself is Ruksh, it's dry, it's Sheath, and somewhere it has been also called as Anushna Sheath. So, and Laghu, it's light, it's Suksh, it's subtle, and then it's Chal. Chal means it causes movement and is able to pervade the channels of the body, and it's Vishad. Vishad means it is clear in its movement. Because of this clarity, because of the sukshmata and the laghuta, it is not going to get obstructed anywhere. And khara, it causes, this is a function which is presented in the body, that it causes kharata in the body. So how do we see when in a person we see these properties? Normally, we don't see if a person is healthy, we will not see these properties of rukshata and kharata because they are balanced by the opposite properties of kaph and to some extent by pitta also. So the properties of Vat are and Pitta and Kapha, these three doshas are continuously being balanced by each other so that there is a homeostasis of the functional attributes and the gunas in the body, and normally there should be sneha in the body. A person should have sneha. Sneha is a representation of health, but that sneha should be kept in check. Sneh, am I making any sense? If someone would interact, that would be great because it's only one way. Hello. For example, if we say healthy individual, then how do we perceive that person is healthy? We just by looking also we can have a glimpse that a person is healthy by the looks of that person. So what are that looks? That the person is the person has a prabha, varna, kanti, these things are there, but then the person has an unctuous look. The swar is also good, the skin and other properties, they show an unctuousness. So the unctuousness of our body should be like the unctuousness which is present on the petals of a leaf. The unctuousness on the petals of a leaf give it a glow, but it doesn't like anything stick to it. So the unctuousness in the body should be such that it lubricates the body, it protects the body, but it doesn't have that sticky quality or pichilta in it. So the sneha should be there, but that should not be associated with pichilta. Hence the vishad property of vat, the vat is acting at all the places in the body and counteracting or balancing the pichil gun of kapha. So Vat is understood by its karma. Avyakto vyakt karma. That itself it is avyakt, but by its functions we can understand it and we can know it. And by its gunas. So these are the gunas. When we see these gun to be increased in the body, then we can say that either the Vat has increased or there is depreciation in the qualities of Kapha. Since these three doshas are continuously balancing each other. So, how is Vat aggravated? That is a very important question, as has been discussed in Charak Sutra Adhyay 12 also, that Vat, which is itself is amurt, not having any shape, and anasadya, which is unapproachable. It is unavasthit, it is always in motion. Then how does such kind of Vata get aggravated? So that we will now see that how is Vata aggravated. So dushti of Vata occurs because of sevan of the Vata. Will you agree with me when I say that in Ayurveda also it has been said that khadinyatma manah kalo dishascha dravya sangraha. So the Panch Mahabhut, Man, Kal, Dishaएं, everything has been called as dravya. And what is dravya? Yat rashrita karma gura karanam samvai yat tadr dravyam. So dravya, where is there? What is that dravya? Where there are some karma, which performs some karma, there are some properties, and which is a samvai karan of something, that is dravya. The description of dravya in Ayurveda, the definition of dravya in Ayurveda. So Vat made of the Panch Mahabhut, that is also a dravya or a matter. Now, as we have discussed earlier, that Vata is made up of two Mahabhuts, predominance. It is made up of 5 Mahabhut actually, but there is predominance of 2 Mahabhut, that is Akash and Vayu. So, Akash is space and Vayu is the air or the wind. Air in movement is called as wind. So, we can call it as air. Now, air and space, both are given the word status of matter. What is matter? Matter is anything that has weight and occupies space. So similarly, the Vata, which is present in our body, it is also a matter or a dravya. It has some karma and it has some gun. And when something is dravya, even man is dravya, disha is dravya, kal is dravya, so then that dravya can be increased or decreased in the body. How? Sarvada sarva bhavanam samanyam vriddhi karanam. So if we are going to indulge and utilize substances which are having the properties which are similar to that of Vata, those properties will add up to the properties of Vata and will consequently lead to its aggravation in Anshansh Kalpana. For example, if a person is indulging in excessively dry food items, then what will happen? The Raksha bhav of his body will increase. Other properties, but it will lead to increase in the component of Vata, which we will be able to see. Now, it cannot be only diet. If a person indulges in such kind of behaviors also, for example, Ratri Jagran is also Rosh. So, if a person is doing excessive Ratri Jagran or Vyayam, then also the Raksha bhav of body will increase and it will lead to aggravation of that particular component of Vata. So, the increase in Vata can be collective, in which the whole Vata is increased when many such components are present, or it can be in the Anshansh Vikalp also, when that particular component which is being indulged upon will increase in the body. So, sheath, when we say that increase in sheath property, so what we see in air, when we have already students of biology and we have studied that heated air or air, when it is heated, its molecules increases, its gati will increase. And what happens when the air is cooled? It will settle down. Similarly, the sheath property of Vata, when we utilize the substances which are sheath in nature, either substance or activities, the sheath property will lead to stambhan and it will hamper the gati of Vata. Now, Vata is the regulator and it has to continuously initiate activities. It has to continuously regulate and coordinate the activities, and it has to continuously control them. So, if the sheath gun is getting increased, the property of gati of Vata will decrease and it will lead to dushti of Vata. So the collectively there are so many factors which can increase Vruksha, Sheet, Laghu, Sukshma, Vishad, Khar properties, Darun properties of Vata, but then they have been summarized by Tistacharya in Madhav Nidan as Vyayamat, Aptarpanat, Prapatanat, Bhangat, Chayat, Jagarnat, Vedganam cha Vidharanat, Atishucha, Shatyat, Atitrasatah, Rukshashobh, Kashay, Tikti, Katukair, Evi, Prakopam, Vrachet, Vayu, Varidharagame, Parinate Channe, Aprane Apicha. So the whole, almost, the factors are innumerable, but almost all the factors have been tried to be summarized by Tistacharya in these components of the shloka. So that is what we have discussed, that आहारश्च विहारश्च यह स्यात् दोष गुणे समः धातु भी विगुणश्चपि स्रोतसाम स प्रदूषक. So the properties homologous to dosh and analogous to dhatus, they will vitiate the vat. So other causes of dushti of vat, they are very important, have been described in this Chikitsa Sthan, that dhatukshay, vayur dhatukshayat kopo marga savarani. So vat dushti also occurs besides its own indigenous factors. Indigenous factors are the ones which we discussed in the previous slides. Besides those factors, dhatukshay, because now we will go on to dhatukshay. Now this is a diagram which I have seen placed here, that vat is residing in the whole body and dhatu. Now if we just visualize that what kind of a system our body is. Our body is an open system. Open system means that we continuously have to interact with the environment. We have to intake some food. We perceive the sense organs, the vishay by the sense organs. We breathe, we excrete. So continuously intake and excretion is occurring. So this is an open system. A closed system is that in which no external factors are able to influence it. But our human body and all other organisms which are present in the universe, they are open system because they are continuously interacting with the environment and are accordingly getting changes. Now, in an open system, we all have done that experiment, I suppose, in our lower classes. When we did that, we took a thali and we took water in it, burnt a candle, and then placed a glass over it. We have done it. So what happens after some time when the oxygen which is present in that glass, it gets consumed, the candle extinguishes. And the empty space which is created there, what is done to it? The water rises to fill its space. So do you remember this experiment and you agree that it is a true phenomena? Whenever there will be vacuum, that vacuum will be filled by something which is not vacuum. Is it right? Now, our body doesn't, dhatu, upadhatu, mal, srotas, agni, and all other components, but there is no vacuum in it. So there are all the places of our body are filled with some component, interstitial fluid, tissue, plasma, serum, everything is occupied by some tissue of the body. We will call it dhatu, updhatu, just to indicate that yes, there is something which is filling up all the space in our body and there is no empty space such as vacuum. There is no vacuum in our body. Now what happens in case of a dhatukshay? So we can appreciate that dhatu are of two types. Liquid dhatus are also there and dhatu here is also including updhatu, mal, everything for the purpose of description. So the dhatus are of some dhatus are liquid in nature, some dhatus are solid in nature, like mans, med, asthi. These are solid type of dhatus and others are also there which are liquid in nature. So the kshay of dhatu. Now we just imagine a scenario when a person met an accident and he bleeds. Or if a person is having diarrhea, vomiting, and that person is getting dehydrated. What happens? If a person bleeds, then the RBCs, WBCs, and a particular volume of blood is lost. So what happens? That if what we have to do, there is a dhatu kshay. Shodit dhatu ka kshay hua. Now, what we see in that person, that vayur vriddhi, the lakshan of vayur vriddhi will occur. Why? Because the loss of the components of that tissue has resulted in decrease in quantity, but the body will try to compensate it. So it will dilute it with the other body fluids to maintain the blood pressure and the flow. So the viscosity of the body, the concentration of the components which are present in blood, that blood will decrease. So first there was decrease in the quantity of Rakta Dhatu, and then body tried to compensate it because the body will try to maintain the homeostasis. And so what it did, it diluted it with the other body fluids, so that there has been now a decrease in the quality. So now the blood has become less viscous, its viscosity has decreased, the cellular components have decreased, the oxygen carrying cells have decreased, so that all these decrease in the quality and the quantity of the tissue will present as the symptoms of increased Vata. Similarly, if a person gets dehydrated, in diarrhea, vomiting, what do we see? We again see that that person is feeling dizzy, has headache. The features of Vata Vriddhi are seen there also. So whenever there is some empty space, it will not be left empty like that only. It will be diluted and the body will try to compensate it. And in this trying of compensation to maintain the no homeostasis, the new homeostasis stage, some of the symptoms will definitely present in the body, and that symptoms, they all pertain to Vata dosha. Now, these are the liquid tissues we discussed. Now, there are some solid tissues also. For example, muscle tissue is there, bone tissue is there. You all have heard about in when muscle tissue gets deteriorated in cachexia. Again, the symptoms of Vata Vriddhi occur. Because now what happens when the muscle tissue is not getting proper growth and nutrients and it is getting depleted, again the symptoms because of the decrease in quality and the muscle mass, the features of Vata Vriddhi will present, because all the tissues are having snigdhata. None of the tissue is ruksh and khar except asthi. All the tissues are having some snigdhata component. When snigdhata will decrease, obviously that will be taken up by the ruksh component, increase in the ruksh component. So that will present with Vata Vriddhi. Further increase in rukshta will lead to kharta. Further increase in kharta can lead to the total dryness or darunatva also. So these are relative degrees which will be presenting in the body. Now in bone tissue, bone is comparatively different as compared to other tissues, because bone is, we know that Vayu and Asthi are having ashray bhav. Why that ashray bhav has been given only to the bone tissue, not to any other tissues? Because their bone has a, as we all have read, that bone has is extremely weight bearing. It has got a great tensile strength, and now with this kind of tensile strength, if it would not have been porous, then it would have been difficult for us to move our own body parts. So in order to maintain the light weight of the bone and at the same time give its extreme tensile strength and weight bearing strength, there is a complex network and the bone is made porous from inside. Now within this porous bones, there is Akash bone, and the Vayu can move within this Akash bone or porosity of the sushirta of the bones. Now, we all know about osteoporosis and osteopenia when the bone tissues are getting degraded. So if the bone tissues are getting degraded, if the minerals are getting deposited less, again what is happening is the porosity of the bones is increases. And again the increased space that will present with the features of Vata Vriddhi. Because the rukshata of the bone, that also has to be within a particular limit. If it will increase further, it will give rise to a pathology. And then Avaran. Avaran is Avaran is though very difficult to understand, but in broadest sense, we can understand that if something is moving, we see a traffic which is moving and it suddenly gets obstructed. What will happen? It will lead to increase in the traffic behind that obstructed place, and it will give rise to certain pathology. So the other two causes of dushti hetu of Vata are Dhatukshay and Avaran. So Dhatukshay, as we have discussed, can be in terms of quantity or quality. So now we come to the functions of Vata. Avyakto Vyakta Karma. Now the functions of Vata have been described in so short, but if we see and we go to the details of the functions which have been described, we will find that the Ayurveda in so small sutras have described almost the whole function which we study in the modern perspective. So Charak Sutra 18 has described, we all know very well this verse, that Utsah, Uchwas, Nishwas, Cheshta, Dhatu Gati Samah, Samumokshu Gati Mata, Vayu Karma Vikarja. That here, that Utsaha here refers to all the functions of the body, the motor functions of the body. Uchwas here is pertaining to all the autonomic functions of the body, Uchwas and Nishwas. Cheshta again to the motor functions, and Dhatu Gati Sama. Dhatu here refers to Dhatu, Upadhatu, Mal, everything, Dosh also, other two, because Dharana Dhatva, anything which is helping the retention and the growth and nourishment of the body can be considered as a Dhatu. Samumoksho Gatimatam Vayu Karma Vikarjam. Mal also are to a particular extent come in the category of Dhatu. Because we have seen and read this concept very well that though Purish is a Mal, but it doesn't have to be excreted all the time. It has to be held in the body for a particular period of time till the time it is completely made and processed, and then after a particular period of time only it has to be excreted out of the body. What happens in Atisar? Mal is getting excreted all of the time without getting properly formed. So what happens is that we experience the Lakshana of Dhatukshay. So Mal to a particular extent are also helping in the dharan of the body, and hence for that description they are also considered as dhatu. Why that specific terminology of mal has been given? To indicate that they are do dhatu, but it is to a particular time only that they are dhatu. Otherwise they have the property of malini karanat mala, means they will cause vitiation in the body and will result to some of the pathology. So that is their main property. So to differentiate the main property that they can vitiate the body, they can give rise to pathogenesis, they are given as the term of malini karanatmala, but they also have a physiological function and help in dharan of the body. For example, Purish ka hai upstambhanam vayu agni dharanam cha, that it does the dharan of vayu and agni and it does the upstambhan of the body. Similarly, Mutra also has a function that it does Vasti Puran and Vikledan. Similarly, Swed also has a function that it removes the extra excess of clade from the body. So every mal also has a function, but excess removal or untimely removal of the malas is not proper. That is why the term here is used as samomoksho, some amount. Some also refers to the timing, that the timing should be proper, the amount should be proper, and the method should be proper. So the expulsion of the excretory products from the body, that also has to be some. And this all indicates the proper functioning of the Vata. Now, it is very important because we have read all this and we found the reference in Sushruta Sharir Adhyaya 7, verse 8, where we found that important component, Kriyanam apratighatam moham amoham buddhi karmanam karoti anyan gunashapi swaha sira pavanasharam. This is the chapter on Sira Sharir, and there when Vata is working or circulating in its own sira, in its own channels, then its functions have been described as kriyanam apratighatam, means it will perform all its functions without any obstruction or stoppage, and amoham buddhi karmana, means the intellectual functions of the body, our brain, they will also be performed without any disturbance, without any moha, means samyak gyan will be there. Karoti anyan gunaschapi swaha sira pavanasharan. So this verse I have put here to show that there is a description of buddhi function also in the description of common functions of Vata, and we'll see later that in Pranudan etc. the function of buddhi is described already. So Now this, the Charak Sutra Adhyay 12, which is very important for the functions and regarding the different aspects of Vata, there the different functions of Vata have been described. Now, knowing the physiology will help us to determine the pathology. So here we have taken the physiological components in more detail, because then we can understand that these are the physiological components, and if they get disturbed, obviously pathology will be there. So the functions of Vata, there it has been described, Pravartakas Cheshtana Uchavjana. So Uch and Avach functions. So how can we understand them? Cheshta. Cheshta, what is Cheshta? It is the activity. What kind of activities can be there in a human body? Kai, Vak, Man. The activities of the body, Man and Vachan. Three kind of activities can be there. Now, these three activities are also present in the animals. They also move, they also communicate among themselves. So they also have the property or activity of vachan in their own language. We are not able to comprehend it though. And man, they also show some emotions in dogs and pet animals. We have seen that they also express some emotions and some understanding. So there also some amount of understanding, emotional expression, and the activities of the body, digestion, all of this along with uh, uh, speech. Their speech is also present. So Kaya, Vak, Man, Pravritti is present in the lower animals also. But then how the humans? Now Vat is there in those organisms also. But in humans, there is a more higher function as compared to that which is present in the animals. And that higher function is the bipedal gait. That is, we are standing on our 2 feet. Then it is the speech. Speech is again of two types, that is the receptive speech and expressive speech. If a person is speaking, we are able to comprehend that speech, hear it, and we are able to comprehend it, understand it, and then we answer it, or whatever is required, we perform that function. So speech is receptive and expressive. So one is gait, another is speech, and the third is the cognitive functions. For example, we can plan. We plan our finances, we plan a timetable, we have some goal to achieve, and we plan our day-to-day schedule to execute that goal. So that all relates to the higher functions, which are the functions of the brain. And the lower functions are the autonomic nervous functions, the reflexes, the movement functions are there, which are going on in our day-to-day life, and we don't have much role to play there. So we all know this whole human body, which we are studying in Ayurveda, Dosh, Dhatu, Mal, Upadhatu, Srotas, Agni, we study in terms of these components. But the same human body is studied by the modern medical science, and they study it in terms of the different systems, the brain, the central nervous system, and other things. So the same human body we are studying from two perspectives, the perspective of Ayurveda and the perspective of modern medical science. Our Ayurveda perspective, that the verse which tells that it is Anadi, Shashwat, Anant is completely true, because the modern science description will be something today, and then they will find another description, another reason, another logic, another experience, that no, that component which we described earlier was due to this, is not due to this, but there is some other component which is present there. So that subtle, their description goes on changing, but our description doesn't change. But for a better understanding of our own science, we can use some of their components to understand better the what do we mean, because there was a period when there was a deterioration in the practical experience we had due to various reasons in the history. We all have read it, that the influence of the modern medical system, Unani medical system, what matlab, when the Vaidya Parampara was, Guru Shishya Parampara was not at all supported. So there was a decrease in the practical understanding which the Guru used to pass on to the Shishya. So we can have it by our own opinions. I mean, this is my opinion. which I am putting here so that we may be able to comprehend that what does this mean, what can we understand by this. It is like Chakrapani Tika, but this is with modern medical science also. Some of the help is being taken from that. So Uch and Avach, these are the Cheshta. So Uch Cheshtaon ke liye we very well know that for the cognitive and the higher functions we are talking about, the modern medical science all contributes all of this function to the brain and different of its parts. That there is a language area, there is a speech area, then there is a area which perceives the sense organs, then there is the cerebellum which is coordinating the movement, regulation, tone, etc. And then there is the in the medulla there is the center for respiration, etc., which will I'll have presented later also. So all of the movements of our body, all the cheshta of kai, man and vachan, they are regulated by the vat, and that vat which is the pravartak of all such kind of cheshta, kai, vat, man, all higher and lower cheshtaएं, that is within the brain. Now with that, no. Then they have also described pravartako vachah. Vach is vachan, shabd ki pravitti. The pravitti of vachan is a cheshta. It is a function, which is motor function, which is getting done. So Vayu has been held responsible for this function. So how do we understand it? We can produce speech. Animals also produce speech. They also bark. They also have a voice box in which the air from the lungs comes and it resonates. But they are not able to produce the different pronunciation as we can do. We use our muscles of the oral cavity, lips, tongue, palate, and other muscles to produce the sound and the syllable which we want to produce so that it has a sense. So the pravartan of vach is not only related to the larynx and the vibration of the larynx, but also to the formation of syllables, which is coordinated by our mind. Our mind tells what we want. We know, we are thinking that what we want to speak. And our mind is unconsciously, it is coordinating all our muscle movements of the mouth so that, and its different components, so that we are producing the words, we are producing the meaning which we want to convey. So that speech which we unknowingly use very lightly, that is a highly coordinated function of the larynx and the muscles in coordination with the brain centers. Then Harsh, Utsah, Yoni. What is Harsh? Harsh is happiness, and Utsah is enthusiasm. So what these two functions show? Utsah, Uchwas we have already studied as the function of Vat. Utsah is there. Utsah has been described as the initiation of some work. Means the initiation which we take to execute some work, that is Utsah. And the happiness which we derive from doing that work or in getting involved in that work, that is Vat. So Vat in its functions, there are two very important components, that it is the impeller and the initiator of Harsh and Utsah. What happens in Vat Kshayavastha? The Utsah is lost and depression may also occur. Vishad can take its place. Now, Uch and Avach Cheshtaएं. The cheshta of our body in the modern medical science, we study under so many systems. We study it as a sensory system, skeletal system, respiratory system, then digestive system, circulatory system, excretory system, nervous system. So many systems we are studying. But in Ayurveda, we only study it as Vat. Vat is the pravartak of all Uch and Avach cheshtaएं of the body. And that all cheshta may come under any system which we study in the modern medical science. But all of that cheshta will be covered under the functions of Vat dosh. Then, so now with the nervous system, as we have studied in the modern medical science, it can be divided into two parts, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system has the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system has all the other somatic. Peripheral nervous system has somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. So the functions which we studied here, all these functions are somatic nervous system, Harsh, Utsah, Yoni. when we are excited, we're going to execute some work. That work is either by the body or by the man or vachan. So that is some cheshta is there. That is the motor function of the body. So this is pertaining to the motor function of the body. Motor function is executed through the motor neurons, that is the somatic nervous system, and by the central nervous system, because the central nervous system is coordinating everything. Refers to the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, it comprises of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. These two nervous systems, they have the sensory part also. The autonomic nervous system has sensory part as well as the motor part. The autonomic nervous system is innervating our internal organs, and it is governing the functions of the internal organs. So heart, our lungs, our digestive organs, they are all innervated by the autonomic nervous system, and their perception as well as their regulation is governed by the autonomic nervous system. So these functions of Samirano Agneha, Dosha Sansoshanah, Shepta Bahirmalana, they are related to the organs of our Kosthang, or the organs which are present in our body, and they are relating to the functions of autonomic nervous system. And autonomic nervous system has sensory and motor components. The sensory components, will they work? That, for example, when the blood is there in the heart, it senses that blood is here. Now the valves will close and the heart will start its contraction. If the bolus of food is there in the esophagus, the muscles will contract and put it down to the stomach. The stomach will then churn it and mix it with the digestive juices present there. Then again it will contract to expel it, and the sphincter will open. The juices will be excreted out in the lumen for the digestion. So the autonomic nervous system is functioning in coordination for the proper execution of the digestive functions. So though digestion is the process of, it is an activity or an action of pitta dosh, but at what time, what activity should occur, what should be secreted, what sense is made. It could be due to pressure changes by the bolus of food, or it could be due to the chemical perception, or it could be due to any absorption perception. So that all perception in the organs of the body and consequent action, whether secretion has to be done or secretion has to be stopped, whether the sphincter has to open or the sphincter has to remain closed, that is all governed by the autonomic nervous system. And this we all very well know, that autonomic nervous system is also affected to some extent by the central nervous system and our man. If there is stress or some other kind of psychological derangement is there, then the functions of autonomic nervous system also get deranged or changed, as in fight and flight response also. So to hold the Shepta Bahir Malanam refers to, not, as I have already discussed, that not the malas will be excreted all the time. After a particular period of time, when its functions have been performed, then only the mal will be excreted out of the body. Another function is Karta Garbhakritina, that the deposition of semen in the female reproductive tract, it's the fusion of the sperm to the ovum, and then the division of the cells to produce the various organs of the fetus, all occurs by the Vata dosh, as has been described elsewhere, that Vayur Vibhajati, Tejenam Pachati, Apah Kledayanti. So, Karta Garbhakriti Nam. So, the deposition of the semen, the fusion of the semen, sperm to the egg, and then further cell division, that is a function of Vata. And not only cell division, the maintenance of flow to that fetus, holding of that fetus, contraction of the muscles before the birth to hold the fetus there for 9-month period of time, coordinating, initiating and regulating its growth, and then When the growth is complete, then the Vayu starts the contractions and then it expels the fetus. So in Vikrit Vat Dosh Lakshan, there it has been written that the Vikrit Vat will result in Garbh ka upghat. It will destroy the Garbh. So the Prakrit Vat not only helps in formation of the Garbh, but also holds it in place for the particular period, and then only after the period is over, the Prakrit Vat will work upon Vayu specifically to expel that fetus out of the body. That is the function. It's very important. This was the first function which was given, but I have taken it a bit later, that Vayu's Tantra Yantradhar. Tantra here is referring to system and Yantra is referring to its components. Tantra is Sharir and Yantra is its components. So the Sharir, the human body as we see, your body, our body, every body has so many systems in it, as the modern medical system says. So the coordination of these different systems to control and make the growth and stay healthy, the whole human body, that is Vayu's Tantra Yantradhar. That is the different yantras, the different systems, the coordination between these different systems to make the human body healthy is Tantra Yantradhar. So now this doesn't end here only. The human body is Tantra and these are the Yantra. Then we also know that these organ systems, they are made up of different organs. And these organs are made up of different tissues. These tissues are made up of different cells. These cells are made up of different organelles. These organelles are made up of different molecules. These molecules are made up of different atoms. So there is chemical level, cellular level, tissue level, organ system level, and organism level. So that Tantra Yantra Dhar is not only at the system of Sharir and its components, but also to the more deeper levels. Organ system to its different organs. Organs to its different tissues. Tissues to its different cellular components. Cellular components to its different organelles. Organelles to its molecules. Molecules to its atom. So this Tantra Yantra Dhara property is not only has to be visualized and understood in a gross sense, but it also has to be understood in the most subtle form to the level of Paramanu. That is why Vayu has also been called as Anu. And one more function we will see, that they are also Anuta of Vayu, and this function has been described. So Tantra Yantra Dhar is regulation, initiation, coordination at all the levels between the organism and organ system and organs and tissues, tissues and cells, cells and organelles, organelles to molecules, and molecules to atoms, and maybe electron, proton, or whatever it is deeper inside. Now, this is that Tantra Yantra Dhar regulation, control, coordination, that is what I was talking about. So this is the brain and the spinal cord. These constitute the central nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system is comprised of the cranial nerves, the nerves which are originating from the spinal cord. That comprises the peripheral nervous system. So peripheral nervous system is divided into the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system is more concerned with the organs which are present in our body. Somatic nervous system is related to the motor activities. So both of this, somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system, they have sensory and motor components. So Tantra Yantra Dhar is there because suppose we are sitting here, we are all busy among ourselves, we don't need to respond. Why will a person respond? A person has to respond to some stimulus. If some stimulus will be there, that stimulus will initiate it will be registered in our brain or spinal cord. If that stimulus is registered in the spinal cord, then it may also give rise to reflex. If that stimulus has to be counteracted immediately. So that is also Tantra Yantra Dhar. If we touch a hot or a warm plate, we just immediately withdraw our hand without even thinking for a second. So this is also Tantra Yantra Dhar because the Vat is helping to protect us, protect our body. Now, if something is going to come in our eyes, we immediately close it without even thinking. So this is also Tantra Yantra Dhar. A stimulus is there and the body is trying to protect its system. So that could be due to reflexes. Reflex are, we just don't have to think it. It's coordinated by the level of the spinal cord. And if it is something deeper, the stimulus or the sensory reception, it gets registered in the brain through the nerves, and not all stimulus is responded immediately. Some stimulus we respond immediately, and some stimulus, most of the stimulus, they are registered in the brain, and the brain uses it to develop memories, thinking process, and to respond sometime later also. So Tantra Yantra Dhar is also related to the sensory and the motor components, because all of the initiation, coordination and regulation cannot be without the perception and some action. That is, sensory and motor component has to be a part there also. This, now how will the body perceive ki the different organ systems are there, they are working? How will the perception go for Tantra Yantra Dhar function? That perception is through nociceptors, which are pain, thermoceptors for temperature, chemoreceptors, they are for water soluble and lipid soluble substances dissolved in the body fluids, mechanoreceptors, which such as pressure, so or touch, which stimuli which distort our plasma membranes. So they can be perceived through nerves, myelinated and unmyelinated, through proprioceptors, through baroreceptors, through tactile receptors. These are the sensory stimulus pickers. Then Meissner's corpuscles, Pacinian corpuscles, Ruffini's corpuscles, they all you have studied, that these are the different components which sense. After sensing, they will send a signal to the body. That signal will be integrated and perceived by the body. Okay, what we have to do? Many times the action will be immediate, like the reflexes. Many times the action will not be there because that stimulus is simply registered in the body or in our brain, and we use it for developing our brain, our thinking process, our cognitive facilities. Every stimulus doesn't lead to an immediate action. So that is important, because if we start responding to every stimulus, it will be hysterical. Just imagine every sight, every smell we are looking or having around us, and if we start responding it will be chaotic situation. So the body knows that when to regulate, what to regulate. So that is important. Now this Tantra Yantra Dhar, we have this perception that the hormones or the enzymes are related to the activities of Pitta Dosh. Do you all agree? Because they produce transformation. For example, the most commonly studied hormone, which we all know, is the thyroid hormone. The functions of thyroid hormone are important as they promote the growth, development. They also produce heat in the body. They also increase the basal metabolic rate. So the same thyroid hormone is producing so many functions. It is increasing the basal metabolic rate, which is similar to the function of Pitta. It is producing heat in the body, Ushma, that is also a function of Pitta. Then this thyroid hormone is again acting in coordination with the growth hormone and is promoting the growth and development of the body. So this growth and development, these are the functions which have been attributed to Kapha dosh also. Then the same thyroid hormones, that is the T3 and the hormones, they are governing their own regulation and secretion. So sensing this secretion or the negative feedback control, this I have put here, the negative feedback control which is exerted by these thyroid hormones, this control function, it is a function of Vata. So a same substance, what I want to convey the message is, many times we have studied or we feel like, how much time do I have, ma'am? Hello, ma'am. There were other speakers
Yes.
also.
Yes, ma'am. At 11 o'clock, Vina ji, now I'm going to speak on the topic, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So I'll conclude, है ना?
Okay, okay.
हाँ. So what I want to convey is that the same substance uh, can accomplish different functions. I mean, in Ayurveda, it is clear. We are clear that we have to look at the functions. But if we go for what function and what substance, that will not make any sense to us. Because if we see at this example, we can very well comprehend that the same hormone is performing the function of Vata dosh in our text at one time, Pitta dosh at the same time simultaneously, and Kapha dosh also at different tissues, at different levels. So in Ayurveda perspective, we can use this model to understand our concepts, but we cannot correlate it on one-to-one basis. That's my opinion. Then these are the different sides of the brain which I have just shown, and we all may go through it later. Then the same functions of Tantra Yantra Dhar, which have been described in Ayurveda, that is done with the help of Panch Vat, Pran, Udan, Saman, Apan and Vyan. And there are different areas which have been described for this dosh, five kind of Vat dosh in our body and its functions. So the same function which Vata is doing, which we have discussed earlier, Tantra, Yantra, Dhar, Pravartaka, Sheshtana, Uchcha, Vachana, the same functions are done by division of this Pran, Udan, Saman, Gyan, Apan. So that is what I have tried to represent here, that Pran will do the functions which are ascribed to it, like the respiratory functions, Vyan will do the circulatory functions, Saman will do the digestive functions, Apan will do the excretory functions, Vyan will again do the endocrine functions and so on. So we have to infer. Now it is very important, Niyanta Pradeta cha Manasaha. Because Niyaman, Praneta means initiation, to initiate the man so that it joins to its Vishay, and Niyaman, control. So Niyaman will be on Karma, and Prerna will be for the Vishay. That initiation will be for the man to join to its Vishay. Vishay is Chintya Vicharya Uhyam cha Dheyam Sankalpamev cha. The functions of man, or the Vishay of man, Chintame, Vicharya, Uhya, Dheya, Sankalpya, and functions are Indriya Bhinigraha, Karma, Mansa, Swasya Nigraha. So Vat will initiate the man to join to its different Vishay, and मन के विषय तो वो भी, and sense organs are also its component, because man has to join to the sense organs to have their perception. So that is what I have tried to represent here. That is the functions of man. And the sensory perceptions, which we have already discussed in the previous slides, that the sensory organs are there, they conjoin to their particular vishay, and then that is perceived by man, and man it carries it to the, and results in particular buddhi. So there we have a description. In functions of Vat, we don't have description of buddhi, but in functions of man, it is given there that man joins the organs to their vishay, and it results in the particular buddhi, that buddhi of that particular sense organ, chakshu buddhi, and buddhi means knowledge. Whatever we have perceived, we gain some knowledge from that. So that represents buddhi. Then shotra sparshaniya mulyam. I had thought to describe it, but since time is running out, so I'm just going a bit fast. That tactile receptors, the sparshan indriya is vyapak in our body, Vat is also vyapak, and everybody, everywhere in our body, in all the functions, you just think of any other function, even if it is a chemical or it is a neurotransmitter or if it is an electrical signal, there has to be some contact, and that contact is sparsh. So sparshan indriya is vyapak in our whole body, Vata dosh is vyapak in our whole body, and that is why the sparsh ka mool Vat. And shabd ka mool, shabd is the gun of akash, and akash and vayu gunya anonya pravesh. So shabd can be perceived only when there is a medium to transmit it. In vacuum, we cannot hear the words. So vayu has to be there for the conduction of this shabd, which is a property of akash also, and vayu also, because akash and vayu gun anonya pravesh. And the Chakrapani has described it also like the Karna Shashkuli, that has also got Vat in it. So that is why it is called as Shrotra Sparshanyo Moolam. Now this is what I was talking about, that organ, organelle, molecule, atom, sharir avyavastu, parmanu bheden, aparisankhyeya bhavanti. All the components of the organ of our body in terms of parmanu are aparisankhya. Ati bahutwad, ati sakshmyad, ati indriyatwach. So our Charak Sharir Adhyay 7 describes that there are the avyav of our body is asankhya in terms of parmanu, because it is many and very subtle, sakshmya. We cannot see it through our naked eyes. Tesham sanyog vibhage parmanunam karanam vayuh karmasya bhavasya. So to join these components together is the function of kapha, but regulation of this function is vat only. So tesham sanyog and vibhag, to divide them. It is the all have been attributed to Vata dosh. Then this function sarv sharir dhatu vyuhkara sandhankara sharirasya, it is just showing that every component, every dhatu, every srotas of the body is getting pervaded continuously by Vat, which is transporting the nutrients and is regulating the growth and development. स्थूलडु स्रोतसाम भेदता आयुषो अनुप्रवृत्ति प्रत्यय भूतो अभवति अकुपिता. So the Vat in its normalcy will result in generation of and maintenance of ayu, and this Vat, because of its subtle, sukshma, chal, vishad nature, is able to pervade the minutest channels of the body, which is described as स्थूल अडु स्रोतसाम भेदता. This is the last component, Pakwashaya, Vata and Vasti. We have read in Ayurveda, Pakwashaya has been called as the main sthan of Vata. And treatment also, we see that Vasti is there for treatment. So why didn't our acharyas say ki brain, we have to see the Shir. Shir has been though called as Uttamang. But in terms of Vata, why Pakwashaya was always described? It was, now in my view, in my opinion, there can be difference of opinion, but I am submitting my opinion that Pakwashaya is the part which resembles many to a great extent our brain, cerebral, central nervous system, especially the brain, in terms of appearance, with all the gyrus and sulci-like appearance present in the intestinal tissue also. Further, besides the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, there is also an enteric nervous system which is present in the digestive system, right from the mouth to the anal rectum side is there. Now, that is why Agni and its different functions have been given great importance in Ayurveda. That if we keep this enteric nervous system healthy, that will help in maintaining the health of the central nervous system also. Now, the modern researchers are also backing it. Even if they didn't back us, our concept wouldn't have changed. That is for sure true. But that is just I'm using to help us understand better. So the enteric nervous system, now these are the some, and further the research says that enteric microbiome or gut microbiota. Our gut has about 10 to the power 14 million bacteria, or the organisms are there within our gut, which is more than the nerve cells which are present in our spinal cord. So that gut microbiome is also affecting the functions of the central nervous system, which has been proven through researches. So this intestinal microbiota, if it gets deranged, then it will lead to leaky gut, and the leaky gut will lead to stimulation of the pro-inflammatory cytokines will be there, and it will result in neuroinflammation and protein deposition. Further, the leaky guts, whatever crosses this goes in the circulation, and it can also reach the blood-brain barrier. So if we are able to address the Pakwashaya through our treatment procedure Vasti, that Vasti will be able to cross the epithelial tissues of the intestine and will be able to reach the blood splanchnic circulation, and after going through the hepatic component, hepatic circulation will reach the blood-brain barrier, and anything which is lipid soluble In Ayurveda, Vat Chikitsa, we are using lipid soluble substances. These lipid soluble substances are able to cross the blood brain barrier and they will produce their effects within the brain. So that is my submission. Now they have also described healthy gut leading to healthy CNS, leaky gut leading to diseased CNS. And that is the reason why Acharya said that we cannot access the brain so easily. So we access the Pakwashaya, we keep the gut healthy, we keep the Agni Samyak, we don't indulge in Vega growth, we expel the excreta properly at the timely way, and keeping the gut healthy will result in healthy microbiome. Further, Virechan, Vaman, Vasti at specific intervals will further lead to the normalcy of the doshas and health. So with this, thank you so much. I'm sorry for exceeding my time. Thank you, ma'am. I hope I make sense in some component. Hello. Ma'am? Chaya, ma'am?
Thank you, ma'am. You gave us a clear view on both physiological and pathological consideration of Vata. And you also covered the importance of Vata, how Vata is responsible for maintaining health, how it affects normal functioning of other doshas and dhatus and all the elements of the body. And you also covered the understanding the samprapti of the Vata Vyadhi through the silent aspects of Vata in disease condition. It helps us to do the samprapti vigatana in all the other Vata Vyadhis. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful speech. Next, I call upon Dr. Kullur ma'am to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Vina G. Rao ma'am.
Dr. Vina G. Raman, who is currently working as Professor and HOD, Department of Panchakarma, JSS Medical College, Mysore, and Madam has completed BMS degree from SDM Ayurvedic Medical College, Udupi, and completed MD Government Ayurvedic Medical College, Mysore of Karnataka. Madam has total more than 19 years of teaching experience and guided many UG and PG dissertations. And Madam has awarded gold medal for securing the highest position in BMS at annual convocation of the Mangalore University held on February 1st, 1997, and secured first prize for a scientific paper presentation on Ayurvedic perspective of metabolic disorders and integrated care in osteoporosis at international conferences on health and science in 2005. Madam has awarded with Vishwa Ayurvedic Gaurava Sanmana in an international seminar organized by Vishwa Ayurveda Parishad in 2019. And Madam has published 32 publications and many articles in national and international journals. Madam has guided 11 PG dissertations and participated as a resource person in 15 conferences. And Madam has attended 39 national and international conferences and many training programs. And she has successfully treated a number of patients with different diseases. Madam has given 11 public talks and conducted many more 25 medical camps on basal metabolic disorders for screening and treatment of osteoporosis patients in JSS Ayurvedic Hospital, Mysore. Madam has conducted Arogya Ayush medical camp for biopurification through Virechana, followed by Rasayana therapy in 2019. With this brief introduction, I request Dr. Vina G. Rao Madam to start a session.
Okay, good morning. Yes, madam, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. It's audible, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So my pranamas to Lord Dhanvantari, and I seek blessings from Sri Deshikendra Mahaswamiji as I am working in JSS Ayurveda College and Hospital. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of the Vata Chintana from the college Grameen Ayurveda Medical College Tirdad for giving me this opportunity to share my clinical experience in understanding the pathology of Parkinson's disease. Ma'am, am I audible? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to directly the disease, the Parkinson's disease. It is a progressive neurodegenerative disease characterized by large number of motor and non-motor features. 5 million people all over the world is suffering from this disease, whereas the men are more prone to develop Parkinson than the women. So this disease is named after James Parkinson in the year 1817, who has elaborately explained this disease. Nearly the patients presenting with the cluster of symptoms of Parkinson disease or the Parkinsonism will always fall under the Parkinson disease, nearly 80 to 85% of patients. Whereas another 10 to 15% of patients, they suffer from some clinical features of Parkinson's disease, but not all. And they doesn't respond to the conventional treatment with levodopa, and they fall under the group of Parkinsonism. It is also called by the name atypical Parkinson disease or Parkinson's plus syndrome. So this can be like a disease presenting with the Pratyatma Lakshana of Kampa. So Kampa is explained as a symptom of Vata Prakopa. You say Kampa Parushya Saushirya Shosho Spandana Veshtanam. Kampa is a clinical feature of Vata Prakopa. It is also numbered among the Nanatmaja Vata Vyadhi, the Kampa. And the later author Basavarajiyam, he has explained Kampa Vata as a disease. Whereas in Madhava Nidhana, Sarvanga Kampaha Shiraso Vayuhu Vepatu Samjnakaha. Sarvanga Kampa along with the Shiras Kampa is named as Vepatu. See, these are the terminologies explained under the name Kampa, Kampavata, Vepatu and all. So patient presenting with tremors, Karapada Tale Kampo, that is tremors of the Hasta and Pada, Deha Brahmana Dukkite, Deha Brahmana, that is postural instability, Dukkite, apathetic, Nidra Bhango, insomnia, Matikshina. Matikshina means the loss of the intelligence or the judgment, etc., resulting in dementia, Kampavata Lakshanam. These are the clinical features of the Kampavata. So it can be a mere Kampa, may be a symptom of Vata Vriddhi in many number of diseases, not only Parkinson. So it can be a Nanatmaja Vata Vyadhi, and Vepatu can be a Sarvanga Kampa with Shirak Kampa, and Kampa Vata, as explained by Basavarajiyam, a spectrum of clinical features presenting in a patient. Now coming into the etiological diagnosis of the Kampa Vata or the Parkinson's disease. Most of the cases, the cause is idiopathic, where the cause is not known. Whereas aging is considered to be one of the contributing factor, because this is very commonly seen in late middle-aged people or older age group of patients. Acharya says, why the old-aged patient is the kala for the Vata. Chiyate annadibhihi kayaha shiryate iti shariram. So anabolic process is chiyate annadibhihi kayaha. whereas Shiryate iti Shariram explains the catabolic process of Dhatu Kshaya. So, the involved Agni causes Dhatu Kshaya in the older age group of patient, and patient is prone to develop any number of Vata Vyadhi and even the Parkinson. The genetic factors, the mutated genes, they also cause the regulated cell death in the individual, resulting in the Parkinson disease. In explaining the Madhumeha, Acharya says, Ye chapi kechit kulaja vikara na sadhyamuktam sahibija doshat. So, hereditary contributing factor, the genetic contributing factor also plays an important role. The trauma, I have seen a patient when we were conducting clinical trials in the diseases of Parkinson with Himalaya Drug Company, the mucuna caplet. So, an young adult aged about 26 years came with the clinical feature of Parkinson disease. When we have elicited the history, he told he has met with a road accident. So, external trauma can also cause the Parkinson disease, and the exposure, external exposure, environmental factors, the repeated, more and more frequent exposure to the toxins like the pesticides, heavy metals, and even the drugs, say even the long-term usage of sarpagandha can also end up with Parkinson disease. With these, there can be Dhatu Kshaya, with the Rakta, Ruksha Shital Palagvanna, Vyayamati Prajagari, all these factors leads to the Dhatu Kshaya and causes Vata Prakopa and Vata Vyadhi. The Abhigata, it says, Gaja Ushtrashva Shigri Anapatam Sanat. The accidents, falling or accidents, head injury, the Shiras Marma gets afflicted, presenting with the Parkinson. Then he has used the word Marmaghata specifically, the Shiro Marmabhigata. It is not only the Agantuja, it is Doshaja Marmabhigata. The doshas which are aggravated, vitiated, mixed, or avarana, causing aghata to the marma, that is Shiras Marma, can lead to the Parkinson disease. And one more interesting is Amat, Vega Sandharanat, Amat. So, Anye Doshebhyo, Evati Dushtebhyo, Anyonya Murchanat, any combination of the vitiated doshas can also be called as Ama. So, this Dushi Vishas, so they trigger, they cause Ama, and Ama can lead to the Shiro Marmabhigata producing the Parkinson disease. So all these things can be considered together. So whether the Kavai Gunyata to take place, the Sthana Samshaya to take place in particular site of the brain. So the Kavai Gunyata may be hereditary, genetically predisposed, or it can be acquired due to the exposures, aging, etc. So now coming into the pathological diagnosis. So what causes? With these causative factors, what happens actually in the brain? So there will be free radical mediated injury. Free radical mediated injury, specifically the dopaminergic neurons starts getting degenerated in the areas like substantia nigra and other parts of the brain. It is not that only nigrostriatal pathways gets involved with dopaminergic neuronal degeneration. So many other parts of the brain also gets involved in the disease process. So there will be presence of Levy bodies in the residual neurons. Other than degenerated neurons, the other leftover neurons, there is Levy body aggregates. These are the aggregates of the proteins called as alpha-synuclein. And as we have already discussed, it may be a genetically regulated cell death process. The reduced copper level, one more theory, the reduced copper level and increased iron level in the basal ganglia. So that may be one of the cause, the triggering factor in the pathological process. And already been established that there is a gut-brain axis in the development of the Parkinson disease. See what Acharya says, why there is only some selected areas getting involved in the pathological process. It says, Dehe Shrotam Siriktani Purayitva Anilobali Karoti Vividan Vyadin Sarvanga Ekanga Samshitan. why that nigrostriatal pathways are involved. What is actually causing that dopaminergic degeneration? It is riktani iti tuchchani snehadi gunashunyani ityartah. That is, when in any part of the brain, if it gets snehadi gunashunya, becomes tuchchani or the riktani. So if such is the case, then aggravated vata takes a sthana samshaya in the particular area or producing the Parkinson's disease. So as I have told that a reduced level of copper and even increased level of copper, that is a leaking copper into the CSF, is also a pathological event in the Parkinson disease. See, if you go through the text, you can find a remedy for the Parkinson disease with the drug Sarvanga Kampari Rasa. For in Rasaratnakara, he has mentioned Sarvanga Kampari Rasa. So if you look into the drugs used in the treatment of Sarvanga Kampa, he has mentioned Mritasutam, Mritatambram, Mardayet, Trikatudravaihi, Ekavimshativaram, Chashosyam, Peshyam, Punaha, Chanamatravati, Bhaksha, Rasa, Sarvanga Kampajit. So Mritasuta, Rasabasma, Tambrabasma, and Trikatu. These are the only 3 drugs. Sarvanga Kampari Rasa. See, they know the involvement of the copper in the pathology of the Sarvanga Kampa or the Parkinson disease. The Brack, in the classification of clinical presentation of the Parkinson's disease, he has mentioned 6 stages, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like. So he has told that the disease Parkinson's, it starts in the enteric nervous system, that is in the intestines, and then it moves towards the CNS. So any abnormality in the environment of the intestines in the form of the inflammatory bowel diseases, so that can be a cause or predisposing factor for the Parkinson disease. So any abnormality in the gut can lead to abnormality in the brain. So it is a gut-brain axis. So even in our science, the Pitta Dharakala and Majja Dharakala are considered to be related to each other. Sa eva Majja Dharakala. So any treatment procedures done to the gut is also helpful for the disorders of the CNS. So Mrudu Virechana or Basti Karma, they all explain the involvement of the axis brain, gut brain axis in the development of neurological disorders. So now moving on to the pathology. So how Vata aggravates or the prakopa occurs in this condition? Vayuhu dhatukshayat kopo margasya avaranenama. Dhatukshaya, either directly or by the margavarana or by avrita marga, the dhatukshaya can happen and cause Vata Vyadhi. So it is the dhatukshaya at Majja Dhatu gets involved. Gambhira Dhatu gets involved producing the disease, and margavarana obstruction into the cerebrovascular structures. So we have a vascular Parkinsonism. The repeated lacunar multiple infarcts can also produce the Parkinson disease. So kupitastau samudduya tatra tatra kshipan gadan karoti avrta margatvat rasadimshcha upashoshayet. Avrta marga, specifically kapha causing avarana to the Vata. So Vata starts getting kshaya. The dhatu starts getting kshaya and there will be Vata vriddhi. Rasadimshcha upashoshayet. So that Vata will produce the Vata Vyadhi. It's not only the Parkinson, so all Vata Vyadhis. Then Swakarmanam Hani Vriddriva Avarane Mataha. We have to take up the concept of the Avarana Vata here in this disease. Why? Because Vriddhi and Hani of Swakarma, the functioning of the Vata in a single patient, in a single disease, is a hallmark of Avarana pathology. Say, for example, the patient presents with tremors. Tremors is Chalaguna Vriddhi of the Vata. The patient presents with bradykinesia, reduced to movement, slow down. The movements are slow down. So, Vriddha Lakshanas Hina Lakshanas together in one patient is Avarana. So patient presents with rapid movements, small step rapid movements, fascinating gait, and also presents with freezing, having no movement at all. He will take 3-4 minutes to have one step, very, very slow, freezing gait. So rapid steps, freezed gait together. So it is a hallmark of the Avarana pathology. Swakarmanam hani vriddriva avarane mataha. So you can derive a samprapti like the positive factors, the etiological factors what we have discussed. So there will be Agni Dushti and Vata Kapha Prakopa, and Kapha here causes avarana to the Vata at Mastishka Majja, Ardha Vilina Gritakaro Mastaka Majja. It is Majja Dhatu. The Shiras, the Mastishka is the Majja Dhatu. So Vata gets avarana by the Kapha at Mastishka Majja. So there will be avarana lakshanas, and because of the avarana there is again dhatu kshaya and vata prakopa, and this vata prakopa also causes lakshanas. Say combination of clinical features. So when kapha causes avarana to the vata, so what type of vata? The kapha causes avarana to the prana vata. So wherein the patient presents with impairment of the cognitive features, cognition, thus the indriya lakshanas, the anosmia, the deglutition, dysphagia, and the siluria, inability to deglute the saliva. So siluria, dribbling. So these are all the functioning of the vata. Stevana kshavatu anna praveshakrit. So cognitive impairment, neurobehavioral abnormalities, so all these are produced due to the kaphavrata prana. So when you come into the udana, the speech defects, the monophonia, like the small voice. So speech defects is caused due to the kaphavrata udana. Vak graha, he says in kaphavrata udana lakshana, vak graha. Why? Because the speech is a functioning of the udana vata. So kaphavrata vyana, all the movements, gatya pakshepa, notshepa, nimesha, unmeshana, all the movements, so they are hampered by the kapha here, by the involvement of the kaphavrata vyana. Gatisangas tathaivacha. Gatisanga is a clinical feature, bradykinesia. Kaphavrata apana, the autonomic features like bladder disturbances or the erectile dysfunctions, etc., are produced due to the kaphavrata vyana in patients of Parkinson's. And as I have already discussed, the involvement of the samana vata at the Agni Samipa, which is responsible for the grihani, the enteric nervous system, which is a root cause for the CNS disorder, wherein kaphavrata samana. See, all the varieties of the vata are getting avarana by the kapha, producing the set of clinical features, so which is presented in the form of kampa vata. So what exactly happens once the vata prakopa occurs? So this can cause, produced due to the dhatu kshaya, and this vriddha vata or the prakupita vata, so they take ashraya in the snayu, producing another set of clinical features. Because in the prana, udana, vyana, apana, samana, vata, kaphavrata vata lakshanas, we don't see kampa. So kampa is a clinical feature of snayugata vata. Snayu prapte stamba kampau, tamba and kampa, the stiffness and the tremors. The major positive clinical feature of the Parkinson disease is produced due to the vata, which is taking ashraya in the snayu. So we see clinical features of prakupita vata, the snayugata vata lakshanas, and kaphavrata, all 5 varieties of vata, this group of clinical features. So you can call it as a clinical presentation of kampavata. So kampavata, Basavarajiyam, he says, karapada tale kampo, that is the tremors of both the hands and feet. So it is a feature of snayugata vata. Deha brahmana, the postural instability, dukkite, apathetic, nidra bhango, insomnia, matikshina, the dementia-like features are the group of clinical features of kampavata. So we'll move on to the individual features, like the patient of Parkinson disease presents with primary motor features, secondary motor features, and non-motor features. The primary motor features are the tremors, the rigidity, echinacea, that is the bradykinesia, reduced the movements, reduced movement, and the postural instability. So these 4 clinical features are considered to be the primary, and hypomimia, that is a masked faces, so expressionless masked faces, dysarthria, difficulty in speech, dysphagia, difficulty in deglutition, the sialoria, that is dribbling of the saliva. So all these are the functional Vata functions. So they are also involved. So micrographia, that is the handwriting becomes very, very small, shuffling gait, festination gait, freezing gait, then dystonia and cerebellar, glabellar reflexes, they all fall under the secondary motor features. Then non-motor features, they are all not considered to be with the motor activities, specifically the autonomic dysfunction like orthostatic hypotension, bladder, so incontinence, etc. The autonomic dysfunction, sensory like anosmia, that it is reduced smell, paresthesias, perverted sensation and pain, the sleep disorders, the insomnia, cognitive abnormalities with the indriyas, and neurobehavioral abnormalities, they all fall under non-motor features. So basically, all the clinical features of the Parkinson disease are grouped into the primary motor and secondary motor and non-motor features. So Brack, when he is staging the disease, he says in the first and second stage, patient presents with autonomic and olfactory disturbance with the smell and all. In the third and fourth stage, patient presents with sleep and motor disturbances, and that is the insomnia with all motor disturbances like the tremors, the bradykinesia, rigidity, etc., the motor features. And in the last, that is 5th and 6th day, there will be emotional and cognitive disturbances in the patient of the Parkinson disease. This is a staging of the disease according to the Brack classification. So now coming into the clinical feature tremor. So tremor is a cardinal feature of Snayugata Vata. Snayu praptah stambakampau shulakshepanam tata. The aggravated Vata takes ashraya in the Snayu to produce stamba and kampa. So here the kampa or the tremor is a involuntary rhythmic movements, specifically the resting tremor. When the patient is at rest, not intending to do any of the work, the patient will have the tremors. So which is contrary to the intentional tremor of the cerebellar origin. So to start with, it will be unilateral in one hand, one leg, etc. And later it can be seen all over in all the 4 limbs. The amplitude of the tremor will be 4 to 6 hertz. There will be supination and pronation of the hands with a pill rolling tremor. Patient may even experience the internal shaking. So a re-emergent tremor have also been described. So because that is says the tremor develops with some delay, it is called as re-emergent tremor. So it is a cardinal feature of the Snayugata Vata Lakshanas. So now coming into the rigidity. Rigidity or the stamba. What Vagbhata says about stamba? Stambho bahu uru jangadinam sankuchanadya bhavam niskriyatvam cha. He says sankuchana abhavam. And another reference, he says prasarana asamartyam. The inability to flex and extend smoothly is known as the stamba. So the rigidity, here it is due to the hypertonia of the muscles. So while the hypertonia is seen in both flexor and extensor muscles, so there will be leg type or the cogwheel rigidity. So both during the flexion and extension of the muscles, a continuous resistance is encountered during the passive movement. So cogwheel means it is a jerky one, The lead pipe means throughout the flexion and extension, the patient we feel the rigidity. It's also known as the Froment's manure. So this is again the stambha. Stambha is a clinical feature of Snayu Prapta Vata. So Snayu Prapta has stambha kampao. And even in the Kafavrata Vyana, he says, Guruni Sarvagatrani Stambanam Asti Parvanam. Stambha or the rigidity is produced due to the Kafavrata Vyana, because mobility is a functioning of the Vyana Vata. So if it gets avarana by the Kafa, the stambha will be a presenting feature. So now coming into the bradykinesia, the first two, the tremor and the stambha or the rigidity are the positive features, whereas this is considered to be a negative feature. Bradykinesia means the slowness in all the kinesia. Kinetic means the movements of the body. The patient develops slowness in all the day-to-day activities. So fine movements like the fastening the buttons or using the utensils in cooking, or even the dysphagia or the drooling of the saliva, that is also because of the slowness in the deglutition process, the functioning, the movement, and the loss of facial expression known as hypomimia, the decreased blinking. So all these are considered to be the reduced the kinetic movements of the body, that is bradykinesia. Is again a clinical feature of Kafavrata Vyana. Vyane Kafavrate Lingam Gati Sangastato Adhikaha. Excessively Gati Sanga, the movement gets reduced, is a clinical feature of the Kafavrata Vyana. So there is one more feature have been explained as kinesia paradoxica. Kinesia paradoxica means the patient is unable to walk, unable to move, but suddenly if the patient hears some excessive the sound or sudden some threatening things, suddenly he gets up and runs. Kinesia paradoxica. So it is a chanchala guna of the vata. See, when patient regularly he cannot walk, he all does his work very slowly, but suddenly if something happens, suddenly he runs, you say kinesia paradoxica vata. So it is a lakshana of the avarana, sometimes increased and sometimes decreased, is a clinical feature of avarana. So next is the freezing. Freezing, it is also the movement gets freezed. Freezed in the sense, even if you ask the patient to go for 1 or 2 steps, the patient will not take his legs from the ground to move 1 or 2 steps. He thinks and then keeps one leg forward for 1 step. It's a freezing gait, freezed. So freezed is also a clinical feature of absolute gatisanga because of the Kafavrata Vyana. That has been described as the hesitation to walk. So that can be like 5 types. Start hesitation. To start with, he may be hesitated to walk. Turn hesitation while turning. Hesitation is tight quarters, the small area. Destination hesitation to reach the destination space, and open space hesitation because of loss of support. So the patient may hesitate to walk, absolutely presenting with freezing, complete loss of the movements. So it is also a clinical feature of the Kafavrata Vyana. So next comes to the another clinical feature known as postural instability. So the patient, the stance, posture, equilibrium, so they are also controlled by the extrapyramidal system. So patient develops postural instability because of the loss of postural reflexes and orthostatic hypotension while he gets up from the bed or something. So the BP little falls, orthostatic hypotension, age-related sensory changes, and kinesthesia. Kinesthesia means not knowing where he is exactly, like kinesthesia. So all these together may contribute to one clinical feature, that is postural instability. So this can be examined by a pull test. If you just push the patient from the back, so normally, if it is a normal individual, with 1 step or with maximum of 2 steps, the patient gains the stance and equilibrium. But in Parkinson patient, if you push the patient, he may walk for 3, 4, 5 steps to become, or he may fall. So if you pull the patient from back to check for the retropulsion, so patient will move back 4, 5, 6 steps to become get equilibrium, whereas a normal individual will take 1 or 2 steps to become to gain the equilibrium. What is known as the pull test to know the degree of retropulsion and propulsion. So this instability indicates the association of the pitta with the vata. So there can be association of the pitta. So once the disease becomes chronic, every disease associates with all the doshas. Totally for chronic for years together, not only the vata and kapha, even pitta will also get associated with presenting with the features of postural instability. This has been explained as Deha Brahmana Dukkite, Deha Brahmana, that is instability, as by Basavarajiya. So now coming into the gait abnormality. So a patient presents with the slow, small steps in some patient and in some other rapid, short steps. So rapid, because when the patient is standing, he will have a stooped posture. So his gravitational line will fall in front of him rather in line with him. So to catch the gravity, so he will have a rapid short steps with loss of arm swinging or reduced swinging of the arms. And you call it as the festination or the shuffling gait. If you ask the patient to turn back after moving some distance, he will take a military turn. 1 or 2 steps he will turn and will come back. So it is a classical, the festination gait in patients of Parkinson disease. But in some patients, there may be very, very slow, small steps can also be possible. So small, slow, rapid, short. So the Hani Vridirva Avarane Mataha. Again, it explains the Avarana Vata pathology in the Parkinson disease. So next coming to the speech disorders, the speech is a functioning of the Udana Vata. Vak pravritti prayatnorja balavarana smriti kriyaha. Vak pravritti. So the speech is controlled by the Udana and even the Prana. So when Kapha causes avarana to the Udana and Vyana, even Vyane Paravasti Vagraha, the movement, the articulation, the uttering, everything causes the involvement of the Vyana. So Udana and Vyana gets avarana by the Kapha, patient presents with speech defects. It will be monotonic, no changes in the tone while speaking. Hypophonic, the same, the noise, the soft, breathy speech. There can be dysarthria and tip of the tongue phenomena. They know everything but cannot speak. The tip of the tongue phenomena is also been explained under the speech abnormality of the Parkinson's. Now coming into the postural deformities. Postural deformities, the patient presents with the axial rigidity, the spinal rigidity, because the spine becomes a stiff and stooped posture, that is bending little forward in all the patients. So there can be anterocolis. So the head will be drooped forward. Then the scoliosis with a stooped posture, you can see in the picture. So scoliosis, that is a lateral bending of the spine, that is called as camptocornea. You can see in the photo. Then the Pisa syndrome, the drooped head and striatal hand and striatal foot. See, striatal hand, there is the contraction of the metacarpophalangeal joints, the flexion of the metacarpophalangeal joints and distal interphalangeal joints with the extension of the proximal interphalangeal joint, that is called as striatal hand and even the striatal foot. See, all these deformities always occurs due to the Snayugata Vata. Says, Bahya Abhyantarayamam Kallim Kubjattameva Ayama, Ayama, Antarayama, Bahirayama, Tanurvata. They are all the spasm or flexion of the contraction of the flexor and extensor muscles causing the deformities. So Snayugate anile, Ekanga, Sarvanga Roga. So all these deformities are the Snayugate. That is why I told the Kampa, Stamba, the deformities, all these presentation, the positive features are because of the involvement of the snayu in the pathology of the Parkinson disease. So now coming into the autonomic dysfunction. So patient may present with autonomic dysfunctions, like you have the sympathetic and parasympathetic autonomous. So sympathetic with the craniosacral, the nerves. So there can be orthostatic hypotension when the patient gets up from a sitting posture or sleeping posture. Suddenly the patient's BP falls, resulting in some instability, that is orthostatic hypotension. Sweating dysfunction, sphincter dysfunction, resulting in the abnormalities of the bladder evacuation, and erectile dysfunction. See, this sphincter and erectile dysfunction also explains the involvement of the apana vata in the diseases of Parkinson disease. So when kapha causes avarana to the functioning of the apana vata, there occurs these abnormalities. So now coming into the cognitive impairment or the dementia. So patient will present with slow progressive decline in the mental functions, in which the memory, thinking, judgment, and ability to learn will be lost gradually. There is loss of memory and inability to focus on any of the particular thing. So this condition, nidra bhango matikshina, that is the judgment, thinking, memory, etc., all these higher mental functions, so all these will get reduced. So this involves this because of the even involvement of the prana and udana variety of the function, because kantaro the manobramshaha. So manobramsha is also produced due to the udana and prana. Then neurobehavioral abnormalities. The patient may end up with depression in the 5th and 6th stage of the Parkinson's disease. Patient may end up with depression, anxiety, apathy, the hallucination, that is the perception of the things which are not there. Say for example, auditory hallucination, hearing something which is, that noise is not there in the surrounding, like visualizing something which is not seen at all. So hallucination, or may end up with OCD, checking and washing, like the obsessive compulsive diseases or impulsive behavior with a psychomotor retardation will be seen. So all these are functions of the prana. So prana, vata, buddhi, hridayendriya, chitta, drik, all these functions. So even prana, udana, samana, vyana, apana, all vatas function will be hampered by the avarana, by the kapha. So sensory abnormality, specifically the olfactory function, this has been considered to be the 1st and 2nd stage lakshana only. So there will be anosmia, indriya functions, then sleep disturbances. So nidra bhanga, matikshina, kampavatas, nidra bhanga, alpanidrata, maybe involvement of the vata and pitta. So insomnia can be of 2 types. One is primary and secondary. Inability to fall asleep is primary, whereas inability to stay asleep, that is the secondary one. So transient loss less than 1 week, short term 1 to 3 weeks, and chronic like more than 3 weeks. The patient, if doesn't sleep, you call it as insomnia. So totally there will be an emotional burden. It becomes hard to live because of the frustration, because the patient has to rely on the caregivers. So there will be psychomotor retardation with social isolation, and there will be oft-time unpredictable exacerbation. So patient will be normal and suddenly all the clinical features will exacerbate. What do you call oft-time unpredictable exacerbation of the clinical features? So these are the regarding the clinical features, the clinical presentation of the patient with Parkinson disease. Now it is an investigation. By looking into the clinical features only, it is absolute clinical diagnosis. But to rule out some of the other condition, one can go for the MRI scan or DAT scan. It is an imaging test that measures dopamine function in the brain. Then the transcranial Doppler ultrasound. So that can also be done, a non-invasive procedure to see the vascular abnormality causing the Parkinson disease or any other illness. So genetic testing and dopaminergic response test. So dopaminergic drugs will be given to the patient to see the exacerbation of the clinical features to confirm the diagnosis of Parkinson disease in any other patient. So this is for the research purpose. One who wants to work on the Parkinson disease can have rating scales and diagnostic criteria like UK Parkinson Disease Society Brain Bank, National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. The diagnostic criteria have been established for the Parkinson disease, and a rating scale for checking the therapeutic benefit of the therapy or the medicines used in the Parkinson disease, like Hon and Yar scale. The Unified Parkinson Disease Rating Scale can be utilized. See, now I have already told, like 85% will be suffering from the Parkinson disease. Another 10 to 15%, they suffer from Parkinson-like disease. They are not actually Parkinson disease. Why? Because to call it as Parkinson disease, they should respond to the levodopa, the dopaminergic drugs. So they should respond to the levodopa. So if they doesn't respond to that and still present with clinical feature of Parkinson, then it fall under atypical Parkinson's disease or Parkinson plus syndrome, also called as Parkinsonism. So here there is no much tremor, very mild tremor, or there is no tremor at all, absence of resting tremor and presence of mild Parkinson feature. All these presentations fall under this Parkinsonism. So the Acharya says, Sthana nama anurupaischa lingaihi sheshan vinirdishe sheshan. The other disorders have to be understood by the sthana and nama, by the where exactly the lesion is and what type of lesion. So depending upon that, the clinical lingaihi sheshan vinirdishe, the clinical features will develop in the particular patient. So absence of the resting tremor, the presence of mild Parkinson feature, so makes this disorder to fall under the category of Parkinsonism. So patient will present with early gait difficulty and postural instability. So postural instability and gait difficulty are the late features of Parkinson disease, whereas in Parkinsonism, they are the early features. The dementia and hallucination, dysautonomia, ataxia with the involvement of cerebellar. So all these, and there is no and poor response to the levodopa. So this signifies that this patient is not suffering from Parkinson disease. He falls under a category of Parkinsonism. So this is one more disorder which has to be differentiated, is an essential tremor. So having no other clinical features of Parkinson disease, only tremor, a positive family history with a symmetrical postural kinetic tremor will be present, and no stiffness, no bradykinesia, nothing. So it can be an essential tremor. So these all fall under Parkinsonism. The one is progressive supranuclear palsy. No tremor, but other features of Parkinsonism are present. Patient presents with unsteady gait and early falling, and neck posture will be in extension. So patient extends, always keeps the head extended because there will be difficulty in looking down. That is explained as trouble seeing food on plate. And if you check for the T2 wide images, there will be Mickey Mouse sign or hummingbird sign can be seen as I have shown in the picture. So Mickey Mouse sign or the hummingbird sign can be seen. Another disorder to be differentiated is a multi-system atrophy, where autonomic dysfunction, cerebellar dysfunction, pyramidal dysfunctions are also associated. All the systems get atrophied in old-aged patients. So patient with pyramidal dysfunction present with Babinski sign positive, cerebellar dysfunction presents with ataxia-like features and autonomic features like bladder disturbance, etc. So patient will be rapidly progressing to a wheelchair bound. So if you see for the T2 wide images, there will be hot cross bun sign. You can see in the first two images, hot cross bun sign. This is also a variety of Parkinsonism. Now, cortico-basal ganglionic degeneration. Basal ganglia is involved along with cortical degeneration. So, cortico-basal ganglionic degeneration. As I have shown, there is awkwardness of one hand, the awkward positioning of one hand, or you call Apollo's sign as if the patient is clapping, or you call it as a alien hand. There can be dystonic features or myoclonus, sudden jerks, and apraxia, inability to do the skilled movements, hypophonia, reduced voice with a dysarthria, difficulty in speaking. So it indicates the cortico-basal ganglionic degeneration, and if you the T1 weighted axial section images will present with pancake appearance. That is cortico-basal ganglionic degeneration. So next is one more variety of Parkinsonism known as dementia with Lewy body disease. Dementia with Lewy bodies. Also known as Parkinson disease with dementia. And also known as Alzheimer's disease with Parkinsonism. So what is the difference? A patient with Parkinson disease to develop dementia, he needs years together, some 10 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. After suffering from so long years, patient end up with dementia and Parkinson disease. But so within 12 months of starting, if the patient develops dementia along with Parkinsonism, then it is called as dementia with Lewy body disease. So within 12 months of developing the clinical features of Parkinsonism and dementia together, you call it as dementia with Lewy body disease or Alzheimer's with Parkinsonism. There is one more variety of Parkinsonism known as vascular Parkinsonism, as I have already told, Margavarana. So if there is a multiple infarction or the lacunae infarcts in the brains multiple, so patient may present with the vascular Parkinsonism known as atherosclerotic Parkinsonism, also known as lower half Parkinsonism. The upper half of the body is not involved, only lower half is involved with shuffling and freezing magnetic gait. So if the patient never gets up to walk 1 or 2 steps, it is a whole, the foot is freezed to the ground, never wants to walk. So great difficulty walking, and there is a tendency to fall. If a patient even falls, if a walks, there is a tendency to fall. So what is known as the lower half Parkinsonism. So these are the some of the Parkinsonism, vascular Parkinsonism, Lewy body disease, cortico-basal ganglionic degeneration, multiple system atrophy, then progressive supranuclear palsy. These are all the 5 very important diseases need to be differentiated from Parkinson disease, and all they fall under Parkinsonism. So if you move on to the Sadhya Sadhyata, says, Ete Sthanasya Gambirya Siddhyanti Vanava. Sthanasya Gambirya. So this disease, Vata Vyadhi, is a Mahagada. Mahagada, Vata Vyadhi, Ashmari, Kushta, Mehodara, Bagand. See, it is a Mahagada, wherein Sthanasya Gambirya, the Majja Dhatu, the nervous system gets involved. Astavirina Kritakaro, Mastaka Majja, the Majja is involved. So, it is Siddhyanti Vanama. Navan Balavastvetan Sadayet Nirupadravan. So if it is Nama, early stages, so can be controlled, and if it is a chronic one, becomes Siddhyanti Vanama, may not, maybe Kashta Sadhya, or it becomes Asadhya. Avrita Vayavo Ajnata Jnata Va Vatsaram Stitaha Samvatsara 1 year Prayatnenapi Dussadhya Bhaveyuhuva Anupakramaha. So these disorders, Vata Vyadhis, Prayatnenapi Dussadhya, may be difficult for the treatment, and so far as the avarana is considered, Jeevitam Pranam Udhano Balamuchyate Chattayoh Pidanat Ayushascha Balasya. In any Avrita Vata condition, if Udhana and Prana gets involved in the Avarana Vata, then that is considered to be highly dangerous. So it can lead to the Ayusha and Balahani in a particular patient. So this can be a Kashta Sadhya, or sometimes very, very chronic means it becomes Asadhya for the treatment. So to conclude, the Parkinson disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder and it has to be differentiated from the Parkinsonism. But in our perspective, whether it is Parkinson disease or Parkinsonism, it doesn't matter much for the treatment. So we consider the Kaphavrata Vata, then Snayu Prapta Vata, and involved Mastaka Majja. So these are all the three major aspects to be taken for the treatment. So every understanding is necessary just to plan the treatment and to give an absolute result to the patient. So Vata, here the future research may be necessary in disease-specific biomarkers for the diagnosis, differential diagnosis, and even for the assessment of treatment. See, we have so many modalities of treatment, so many modalities to see to what extent our treatment has improved the patient apart from the clinical features, apart from the subjective features, that we need some objective criteria to assess the treatment. This is Vyatyasat Prayoga, Shita Ushna Snigdha Ruksha. Why? Because Kapha needs the Ruksha and Ushna line of treatment, whereas Vata needs Snigdha Ushna line of treatment. So Vyatyasa Prayoga is essential. To see the benefits in every aspect, we need some assessment objective criteria to analyze the effect of the treatment. So far as our system is concerned, it is a Vata, Kaphakara, Ahara, Vihara, Abhigata, Vishas may cause the Kampavata. It is absolutely a Tridoshaja Vyadhi with Kapha Vata dominance. Rajas and Tamas are also involved depending upon the presentation of the patient. The Mastishka Majja, it is a Sthana Samshaya in the Mastishka Majja. It is a Snayu Prapta Vata, aggravated Vata, either directly or by Avarana, takes Ashraya in the Snayu to produce Tamba and Kampa. And all the Kaphavrata 5 varieties of Vata are involved in the Parkinsonism, depending upon the stages of the presentation of the patient. And here Dhatukshaya also occurs from the Avarana. It is a Madhyama Roga Marga disorder. Shiro Hridaya Bastyadi Marmanyasnyam Sandeya. It is a Madhyama Roga Marga disorders, Mahagada, and it is considered to be Kashtasadhya. Thank you. So if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Actually, beautifully you have combined the Ayurvedic concept with modern man, especially Avarna concept. It is very helpful to students and also to improve our knowledge also, ma'am, faculty too. You have given a crystal clear understanding of Kampavata too, and clinical diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. Some of the pics we have added and the videos very useful to students, ma'am. Actually, some of the students have not seen the disease patient. For those, it is very informative session, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. There are some questions in the chat box.
Yes.
I will ask one by one. First question, ma'am. What is drug-induced Parkinsonism?
See, some of the drugs, they may directly go for the dopaminergic degeneration. One established drug is the Sarpagandha. If only the Reserpine, the concentrated form, if it is used rather than a crude drug, so that have been established that it can cause the Parkinson disease. So I had one patient, he told he has developed Parkinsonism just because he himself is claiming that he used to heat all his food in the microwave oven for 3 years continuously when he was in work for outside. Then he told, with that only I developed, see, all toxins, the dushi vishas, whatever, you continuous exposure to the pesticides and all those things directly can cause damage to the dopamine neurons in the substantia nigra to cause the Parkinsonism.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is to Shalini, ma'am. What happens with Asti Ruddhi, or what does it mean by Asti Ruddhi, Prakuta in context of Vata Ashray relation?
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am, the dhatu vriddhi which is occurring, When we see the Asti Vriddhi Lakshan, it is Adhyasti, Adhidant, the Lakshan is like that. So we can very well appreciate that the Asti Vriddhi Lakshan which are given in a classical text are not of healthy Asti Dhatu Vriddhi. They all relate to the vriddhi of asti dhatu, but that which is not healthy, which is not prakrit, but which is vakrit. So asti dhatu vriddhi, then we will have to refer to a concept of ashtang, which says that the dhatwagni mandya leads to the vriddhi of that particular dhatu. So that concept may be applied, that the dhatwagni mandya of asti dhatu, Asti Dhatwagni Mandya may result to the Asti Dhatu Vriddhi, which is occurring in form of Adhyasti, Adhidhant, etc. presentations. So it could relate to that only. And as far as it is concerned, the bones may turn brittle if more or excess deposition occurs of the minerals or and the asti dhatu which is growing, that will further give rise to pressure changes. So we can appreciate that the growth which is occurring in terms of asti dhatu vriddhi is not prakrit but is a vitiated one, maybe due to asti dhatwagni mandya.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. Anutva is said for both Vayu and Manas. Whether both are same or what?
Ma'am, Adutva is the property of Vayu also and Man also. So both of these substances, Adutva means the same, that they are able to go and connect to the subtlest channels, or what is the most minute component, these two, Vayu and Man can go. But there is a difference. Man is Ek, one only, and Vayu is Vibhu or Vyapak. So at the same time, it can pervade the whole body. It's not that it will be present at a particular place at a particular time, which is the condition with Man. Man is able to join to a particular organ at a particular time, means it is only one. So there is a difference also. Adutva is the same for both Vayu and Man, but while Man is Ek, this Vat is Vibhu or Vyapak. So there is a difference, and well, one similarity is both of them are Adu.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Next question. To Vina, ma'am.
Yeah.
Whether constipatory bowel habit may cause Parkinson disease? If so, what will be the subproperty?
The constipation as such, there is no direct reference. See, any Vegavarodha, the Mala, Mutra, Purisha, see, all the Vegavarodha, the ultimate is the aggravation of the Vata in all varieties of the Vegavarodhas. So when Vata aggravates, depending upon the Kavaigunyata, where exactly Kavaigunyata is present in the body, there it goes and takes ashraya to produce diseases. So what is established fact is that the leaky gut, like the IBD, presenting with ulcerative, Crohn's, etc. So wherever, if such is the case, even it is seen in the appendicitis, the removed appendicitis condition. So if appendix is removed, in such patients also they have done the survey and has established. So there is a relation between the gut and the brain. It doesn't say that constipation directly causes. So habitual constipation for months together, years together can cause aggravation of the Vata, and it can cause Dhatukshaya to result in the Parkinson disease. The first line of treatment is for every Vata Vyadhi, irrespective. So the disease, whether it is Prana, Udana, Samana, the first controller of the Vata is in the Pakwashaya. So the Mrudu Virechana is a first line of treatment for the Vata Vyadhi.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is to Shalini, ma'am. What is the relation between Vishamagni and Vata Prakriti person? Why they have weak memory?
Ma'am, this Vishamagni and Vat Prakriti. Now in Vat Prakriti,
Vishamagni and Vata Prakriti person.
Vat Prakriti persons have a natural predominance of Vat dosh, which is present since their conception and is a natural state for them, though it is Vaikaric also, as they are described as Sadatura. So then this Vat, since it is Chal and Anavasthit, it will keep on fluctuating. And the Vat Prakriti persons also, they have a nature that they are not able to keep themselves so determined and stick to a particular routine also. So it's not that they will definitely have Vishamagni. It's a predisposition to develop Vishamagni in Path Prakriti persons. But the importance of Prakriti, as we study now, that the importance of determining a Prakriti is that a person can know that to what diseases he or she is prone. So what kind of diet and behavior he should or she should indulge in, so that he or she can maintain a healthy state. So this is the basis of understanding of Prakriti and Agni, etc., which we do for Swasth Pariksha. So in Swasth Pariksha, we are determining these things. So Vayu being Anavasthit and Chal will lead to Vishamagni. But it's not that always a Vat Prakriti person will suffer from Vishamagni. If that person is indulging in healthy diet and behavior and is keeping a close watch on whatever he is eating, whatever he is indulging in, so then that person can also have can also maintain a Samagni status. And regarding weak memory, because Prabha Prasado Medha cha Pitta Karma Vikarjam and Vayu is Raj Bahul. So the Medha is a Vayu has been described as Raj Bahul and Pitta is Sattva Bahul. That has been described in a classical text. So and Kaf is Do Tam Bahul, but in context of memory, the Kaf Prakriti people, though they grasp late, but they have a very good retention period of memory. And so this is a natural predisposition which has been described in our classics, ma'am. So that is what I will say. And because of Raj, things are grasped quickly, but they are, I think they are let off also quickly because the retention time is less.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Before ending the session, we want to hear a few words from your side. Dr. Shalini, ma'am.
Ma'am, I would like to thank all the organizers for making me a part of such a wonderful lecture series which is going on, and it was a pleasure for me to also hear to Madam Vina Ji Rao, ma'am. Her lecture was also very informative, and I also immensely benefited from listening to her. So I would like to thank the organizers for two things. First, for making me a part of sharing my views, and also for letting me to share the views of Dr. Veena Ji Rao, ma'am. And it was a wonderful experience, ma'am. Thank you so much. I would like to thank each and everyone. And the participants were also very, interactive. So that is also a very good thing, ma'am, which I want to appreciate and thank. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Vina, ma'am.
Yes, I too thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share the views on understanding of the Parkinson disease. I am more oriented towards the treatment. Still, it is, I feel I enjoy, because I used to teach Roga Nidana for years together to start with, and later I have come to the Panchakarma department. Still, I thank the organizers, the HOD of Vikriti Vijnana and Roga Nidana department, and even the principal of the Gramin Ayurveda Medical College for giving me this opportunity, and even to listen to Dr. Shalini for her understanding regarding the functioning of the Vata. Thank you for giving me this opportunity in the Ayurvata Chintana, a very nicely chosen the title. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I thank both the speakers. Now I like to call Dr. Anand sir for vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to everyone. Myself, Dr. Anand Kunkalli, Assistant Professor, Department of Panchakarma. First of all, I would like to thank our Chief Patrons of Sri Sri D.C. Patil Sir, Chairman, Gramin Ayurveda Medical College, Telda. Thank you, sir. Next, Dr. J.B. Algo Sir, Secretary, Gramin Ayurveda Medical College, Thank you, sir. Next, Sri Nilesh J. Desai, sir, President, Ramina Ayurveda Medical College, Kerala. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to thank our beloved principal, sir, and president of this webinar, Dr. L.M. Biradar, sir, for his presence. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank organizing secretary, Dr. Chintana ma'am, associate professor, HOD, and Department of the Roganidana, Grameen Ayurveda Medical College. Kerala. Thank you, ma'am. On the behalf of entire institute, I would like to thank today's guest speakers, Dr. Shalini Rai, Madam, Assistant Professor, Department of Roganidana, All India Institute of Ayurveda, New Delhi. Next, Dr. Vina G. Rao, Madam, Department of PG Studies in Panchakarma, JSS Ayurveda Medical College, Mysuru. Next, I would like to extend my thanks to teaching, non-teaching, hospital staff, and student of Grameen Ayurveda Medical College, Kerala. Last but not least, I would like to thank all media persons, faculty members, practitioners, UG students, PG of different colleges, and audience from different part of the country for the showing their interest in this webinar and making it successful. And lastly, I would like to thank our management and principal, sir, for giving me this opportunity to express my gratitude on this day. Thank you one and all.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anand, sir. Next session will be at sharp 2:30 p.m. by Dr. Madhav Digavi, sir, Professor and HOD, Department of Kaya Chikitsa from Taranath Government Ayurvedic Medical College, Ballari, on the topic Applied Aspects of Spinal Column Disorders in Ayurveda. Please stay tuned with us. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.